some of the reason people are submitting to the same positions because they're using these resume submission tools where they just let the tools submit their resume for them, submit it to all these different positions. And that's why everyone's getting bombarded with resumes.
Yeah, you see on LinkedIn, like I've seen jobs that are posted and closed within 24 hours that already have 100 plus, 300 plus applications, and the recruiters just can't keep up.
When we break it down to the retail aspect, I know my assistant store manager, they had opened up one of the positions for flex operations beauty advisor. She opened it and it was only open, I think, for like 3 or 4 hours. And by the time she went back to it from being on the floor, it had, I think she said, 150 applicants. And I was like, what? This was only open for like 4 hours. And she was like, yeah. Hi there, I'm Denise Chaffin. I'm your podcast host for Talking TA. And today I have with me a team of people we had on last year: Courtney Schuelke, Jamie Starner, and Michael O'Brien, who are all from different generations. And we covered a few topics last year. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick a new set of questions, but we're also going to kind of overlap a little bit with some of the questions. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is same way we compared last year when we spoke, we compared the moment, the state of work, if you would, for 2024 compared to with the years prior. I'm going to do the same thing. Let's talk about the state of work for 2025. And let's talk about the differences that we're seeing in the industries that we're supporting this year, and just different industries in general that you're working in. And then also, I want to compare with this year with what we had again from 2020 to 2023 and 2024. A few of the comments you guys made for last year about the years prior included how much harder it was for people to find work in 2023 to 2024. So I'm going to be really curious to find out what your take is on that for 2024 to 2025. Also, there was a large number, percentage of people who had left the restaurant industry. Jamie, you had brought that up since 2023. So I'm curious to find out about what you're seeing for this year as well. And also talking about the post-COVID plummet that we had for the few years before that. So let's start there. I don't want to jump in too much. Who wants to start? Jamie, why don't you start since we're talking about the restaurant industry? What do you see this year in 2025? Let's go back a year and our discussion in 2024 about the years prior. How do you see things differently and how do you see some of the similarities?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what we have seen over the last couple years is a lot of optimism from the restaurant industry with coming out of COVID, kind of this survival's guilt, so to speak, for some of the restaurants that have still existed, excitement around new technology and AI. And I would say at this juncture, 2025, there's probably not a week that goes by where we don't see news related to closures, bankruptcies, layoffs. So unfortunately, I think we've taken another dip. People are spending less money. We're saying that we're potentially in another recession. Obviously, politically, people are feeling some uncertainties. And so eating out and dining out is more expensive than ever, just with cost of goods and whatnot. And fewer people are eating out. So just putting a lot more pressure on operators as well.
Oh my gosh, that is such great information. And it's so true. I mean, we're all living it. We're all living it. So I think that you bring up the fact too that it's costing more to dine out. It's costing more to have the luxury, if you would, of going to restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Because not just the food you're paying for, you're also paying for the service. And you want to pay your server, tip your servers. I think there's a lot more picking up. I've noticed when I go to restaurants, there's a lot more people picking up orders than
That's
dining in if they are eating out. And then also too, with respect to hiring for the restaurant industry, just the ups and downs that are going on. Do you think that it's discouraging people from even getting into the restaurant industry right now?
Yeah, I think there was this mass exodus during the pandemic, right? A lot of people, hourly particularly, I would say 80%, if not more, were laid off. And so they decided to look into different industries and different roles. And the restaurant, similar to Courtney in retail, is not for the faint of heart. Long hours on your feet, nights, weekends, holidays. And I think some people are just deciding that that's just not for them anymore. And so I don't think it's ever really bounced back from the pandemic when it comes to talent and sheer number of applicants. And I think it's more stressful than ever. Again, you're choosing strategically how you want to spend your dollars and your time, and customers are maybe a little bit more particular with what they want in their food and their service. And so not only is there this expectation from the clientele, but also it's just not everyone is willing to work that sort of role. A lot of people are looking for hybrid and remote, and that will never be the restaurant industry. So you really it's going to be a special person who's willing to work in that sort of environment. And I don't you see restaurants if they are expanding, they're looking at smaller units, leaning into more people dining with QSR and takeout. And so I will be curious to see what full service looks like in the next year or two.
Wow, what a change. I mean, really, what a change. Then also, I mean, there's so many similarities though between last year as well. Just the cyclical business and the turnover. I think that you talked last year about the turnover. There was a 133% turnover rate in the restaurant industry in 2024.
Yeah, People Report is a third-party company that people use for aggregating their data. It feeds into your HCM, and so I don't know what the data looks like now, but it's typically about 30% turnover with management and then about 130 plus for your hourly roles.
Wow, so about the same. That's huge. Someone referred to the hospitality, including restaurant business, retail as well, that Courtney's in, and some of the other, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of what some of the other industries are. They refer to them as high velocity positions versus high velocity in terms of the turnover. And I think part of it has to do with hiring as well, because when you have that kind of turnover, it is more high velocity than just high volume. I think high volume refers to companies that are doing a lot of hiring, but then they may have people who stay. With high velocity, it's just high turnover. And so, have you talked to people, and what are you hearing from people in our industry with respect to the hiring part of this?
Yeah, I'm the president of a group called the Restaurant Recruitment Roundtable, and there's May about 120 TA leaders and professionals. And so we meet every other month, and we also have a chat where we're communicating about trends and challenges. And it seems to be across the board for all segments that there's not enough resources, not enough people, um, not enough time, and it's just working feverishly to try to get to the candidates as fast as they can. How can they leverage technology to try to get those people into the doors and make decisions quickly and get them onboarded without cutting the quality of the training and the hiring process? So it seems to be after talking to my peers, although I'm now in manufacturing, that unfortunately those leaders are still facing those same challenges.
That's so sad to hear. It really is. Courtney, what about you? Let's talk about retail. What are you seeing on the retail side?
Yeah, it's I would say it's pretty similar to the hospitality world. We the company I work for specifically, there's 3 types of roles you can apply for. Sorry if you hear my cat in the background. There's 3 different types of roles that you can apply for. It's, of course, full-time, part-time, and then we have this new position that just rolled out this year called flex. So flex basically means you can work anywhere between 0 to 12 hours a week, and they actually rolled that out to be you have to work once a paycheck, basically, so once every 2 weeks. So in theory, this sounds awesome. It sounds great for those people who, hey, I just need to pick up a couple hours. I just need extra income. Like think of people who do like Lyft or Uber. They're just like, I only want to work for a few hours a week and you get this discount, right? Well, the problem with that was in 24, this company told all of the front stores, hey, hire as many flex people as you want. We'll keep them on and don't even worry about the hours because you'll get loaded hours. Come January, the flex position completely changed and we lost all of our flex people because they couldn't adhere to what the company wanted this position to be. So, because of that, we lost people and then on top of that, our hours were cut. So not only did we not have enough people to even work, we didn't even have enough hours to get the people to work who were full time or part time. So because of that, we are now seeing a lot of that struggle where it's we're not getting enough sales in every day and every week and every month. And then on top of that, because their sales aren't hitting it, the company, the corporate is cutting our hours. So then it makes it harder for your people who depend on this income as their main income to live and to survive. And so it's retail though, it's the same thing. We're on our feet 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. We're customer facing. It's not like we're not sitting down, we're interacting with people all day long, which is a lot of energy. And it's really hard. We're seeing, at least I'm seeing a lot of burnout. I'm seeing it from my hourly employees along with my exempt employees. And I think that's going to be kind of the trend that goes into like this holiday season. I don't foresee, at least the company I work for, to increase the hours or even increase like the amount of people they hire.
Now you're still with Sephora, right?
Yes.
Yep. So that's it, and that's a name brand everybody knows. I mean, everybody knows Sephora, so
Everybody
that
knows.
that would
Yep.
be yeah. I mean, it's interesting to I love the fact though that over the last year, I have to give Sephora credit though for at least trying something new. The flex hours, even though it didn't work out the way they had anticipated, I think that the fact that they tried something new, that they were at least willing to kind of venture off into a different area with respect to employee retention, that I think that says a lot for the company. It really does, in my opinion. I
I do think I do think Sephora does a lot of things right, especially for their people. I definitely think that they are a people-focused company. I haven't worked for a lot of companies that are people-focused. They say that they are, and then the ones that I've worked for, I would say 50-50. Um, at the end of the day, most of them that I've been at, personally, I've just felt like a number. I didn't feel like my managers cared. I didn't feel like I would meet with the district manager. They didn't care. They just cared about the money and the sales, and so that never made me feel good. Um, Whereas at Sephora, they do give you a lot of benefits. We get free training product every month. We get heavily discounted products. Brand representatives will come in and give us free things. They'll provide us lunch 2 times a week. They'll buy snacks for us every month. They provide free therapy, virtual therapy for every employee no matter what tier you are. They provide like EAP, employee assistant programs. They are heavily into your mental health, so they give a bunch of resources. They do a lot of donations and they do a lot of donations for minorities, so people of color, women, the LGBTQ community. So they're very into their community and I will give them props on that. Because I feel like some companies talk the talk, but they're actually like walking the walk as well. So for me to stay at a company, I have to really invest and believe in their morals and believe in their vision. And with Sephora, I definitely do. And that's one of the reasons why I've stayed with them. Otherwise, yeah, retail, it burns you out. It's it takes a special person to do hospitality in retail.
does. It does, especially both of you have brought the fact that you're on your feet and you have to be on. Your personality has to be on. You can't just have like a bad day at work when you're working in those industries. Not only on your feet, but your personality has to shift to adjust to the job, right? Of course, I think any job that we have, I mean, we have to be on unless you're not interacting with people, then you can kind of yeah be yourself more. but yeah, you're the face of the company. And so they want you to have that bubbly personality and to go in and even though maybe you didn't sleep well the night before, you feel like you were catching a cold or you were rushed in the morning taking kids to school or whatever the case may be. I mean, once you get there, you have to like turn on your personality for the role. So they are hard positions. I think and I do again, I'm giving kudos to Sephora for all the things that you're describing for employee retention. I think it's fabulous. And again, even though the flex schedule didn't work out, they tried it. So hopefully they'll make another attempt at it, but maybe tweak it some to where it does work out for everybody. I know there are positions that we call shared I think that it's called shared employment, maybe positions that have been around for a long time, where people will share a full time role to people who want to work part time. And so there's been companies doing that for years. I don't hear about it so much right now. Does anybody know if that's still going on?
I've
No.
never heard of that before.
Yeah, I think it was more for like administrative roles. I know when I worked, oh, gosh, I'm dating myself here, but when I worked for Motorola years ago, there were some people who worked in our HR department who were HR generalists, but you'd have two people working the same desk, but one would work certain hours and the other one would come in and replace the person that worked the morning shift, for example. So it worked out really well for them. So maybe Sephora was trying something like that. But now what about the turnover in retail? Do you see the same amount of turnover, Courtney, though, that Jamie was talking about for the restaurant hospitality industry?
I would say I do see turnover in the hourly positions, non-leadership, but as far as leadership positions and even like I'm a leader in Sephora, but I'm still hourly. So I wouldn't be considered exempt even though I have a key to the store. I can do everything that exempts do. I just don't have that title. Um so I do see a lot of like hourly beauty advisors and operations associates leaving a lot. I do see that a lot of that turnover. However, when it comes to leadership, I would say Sephora leans really heavy into growing their leaders up. And so they do want to increase in whoever is a leader, and whether you start as a sales and service leader or an operations lead, they want to see those people become assistant store managers. They want to see those people become store managers. So they invest heavily in their development. You'll be meeting with your store manager every week. You'll be meeting with your district manager once a month to really gain that impact. So I do see a lack of retention in the hourly beauty advisor role, but I do see it like they're pouring into the leadership role as well.
Interesting. Well, that's good though.
Yeah, I
I mean, it
think
speaks highly for them, for their company, especially in retail.
yeah, no, it's there's only been one other retail job I worked for, and they were not quite on this level in the aspect of wanting to retain their people, wanting to see them grow. Sephora did roll out a new program for their employees that they wanted to promote 7 out of 10 internals into leadership position and mainly keep the promotions internally. And of course, you have to hire external, but they mainly focus on internal promotions and retention.
Got it. Yeah, well, there's a lot of companies out there that could take some lessons from the way their leadership teams are working with their employees. I mean, I think it's fabulous. Great news.
We're just gonna say I've the past 2 years that I've been with Sephora, I started off saying like, "Yeah, I don't know what I want to do with this company. I don't know. I wanna grow. I wanna see what opportunities there are." And as soon as I had mentioned I was just a tiny bit interested in being an assistant store manager, my development started immediately. And it was just I worked at multiple stores as like, "Oh, this store needs help. Why don't you go network with work a couple days over there?" Or so I've worked at several stores here, and I know a lot of the assistant store managers, a lot of their sales leads, their store managers as well. And then the next position that opened up for me was an operations lead. So it was a lateral move, but it was still considered a promotion because I'm learning a whole new side of the business. And usually assistant store managers, they need that. So it just in the end, it ultimately helps me altogether. But I just mentioned a little comment of, oh, I might be interested. And then it just took off from there.
Good for them. Good for them though for grabbing that opportunity with you. and help it. Yeah. I mean, I think it's fabulous. Yeah, it says a lot. And I think that they should be sharing their leadership and just their process with other companies. And even in the restaurant business, right, Jamie? I mean, it sounds to me like they've got kind of a good game plan here with respect to employee retention. Because with the restaurant industry, the turnover in itself is just it's incredible. I mean, have you heard anything, especially at your roundtables, what some companies are doing, some of the restaurants are doing to try to improve employee retention?
I've heard of some creative things that some of the restaurant industries are doing by identifying people who are interested in growing their career, snagging them and seeing if they can't develop, offer some training to help them. I th- if whether they're promoted to a key holder or a shift leader, giving them additional responsibilities so then they can move up that ladder. One of the things that my last company did is we were really big on moving people into corporate from operations and then giving them those technical skills because they had the will, they had the want, they had the interest and the desire, and then I was just leaning into what they were already capable of and knowing, and then teaching them some of that technology and more of those technical skills. So that was pretty cool. Don't quote me, but I want to say over 50% of the corporate office came from operations, not necessarily that restaurant, but other restaurants. I think there's an opportunity within restaurants to have more focus on training and development. I think the majority of the focus goes towards the MIT or manager and training program, and that's onboarding for new hires. So I do think there's an opportunity for that transitional period where maybe restaurants again have really not had a break since COVID. So I just don't know if the focus has been shifted based on, I would imagine, resources, time, and people. But I do think there's an opportunity there. So
Oh, it sounds like it. Oh, that's great. I mean, seriously. And to hear any companies or any industry that's starting to grab the bull by the horns with respect to upskilling their employees and doing employee development is huge because that's the name of the game right now, especially with all the different changes we have.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've experienced LMS systems that use gamification to help with those training skills and whatnot, mentoring and whatnot. My last company, we actually roll out a company that would come in. We would do book club and coaching sessions and executive coaching. So that was quite phenomenal. But the leaders at the exec level have to have the focus can't just be on that bottom line. The focus has got to be on the people, which then positively affects that bottom line. So sometimes I think that gets lost in translation.
Yeah, I spoke to a woman this morning who said she's the CEO of a big company. And she said for her, she didn't start out as a CEO for revenue, to drive revenue. She started out as a CEO to drive product for her company. And she said it's made such a huge difference in the bottom line for the company that her focus has been on product and not on revenue. And I thought, wow, I wonder if that would how that would translate in other industries, focusing on people or your product or your services versus the bottom line. Hmm. Michael, welcome. Thank you so much. I mean, and I can't wait to hear about what you're experiencing right now in the tech space and in you've been on a search for a contract, you've been interviewing, and that's something I want to talk to all of you about. You've been interviewing a lot. Let's hear what's going on with you compared to last year. So, Michael, tell us what's going on with you since last year.
Interviewing, I interviewed 6 times. 5 out of the 6 times I got ghosted after 2 interviews, or 2 to 3 interviews. But I landed a contract with a construction company that they basically build out like semiconductors and data centers. So it's been pretty interesting. Hence of why I'm late. But the tech industry is on hold until I think end of next year.
You think what?
The tech industry will be on hold till the end of next year, or maybe 2027, or maybe even even to 2028. I just don't think there's going to be any growth until they're done finishing the AI building, because they're building all sorts of new AI fabs, and then that takes 2 to 3 years. And then on top of data centers also trying to update with the AI boom, it's going to take a lot of time. Sorry, there's a lot of bugs for some reason. It's just going to take a good 2-3 years before we see any hiring in tech. And most companies are on hiring freezes until all of this is figured out, including the tariff situation, which is making it harder for the construction companies to bring in all their inventory, like steel, even lumber, water, everything else, like silicone. All that stuff is going to take.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, when you think about it, everything that goes into making our electronics, I mean, it starts with what, silica sand, right? It's just amazing. And then, like, you bring up a really good point, though. So, tech industry has been flat. I'm thinking maybe 2.5 years now. I've never, in 37 years of recruiting, seen such a slowdown, such a long period of slowdown. One of our clients, with one of our semiconductor clients, made a comment to me about a month ago. She said, "We're in a recession. Let's just call it what it is." People have been afraid to say the word, but really, I mean, when you look at where we're at, what else would you call it, right? Because you can't take and just say, "Oh, it's just a temporary lull." No, this lull has been going on for a long time now, and it's affecting there's this trickle-down effect that's happening, I think, with a lot of industries. I mean, Jamie brought it up with the restaurant industry. That's affected. Hospitality, retail is gonna be affected, especially with the tariffs and whatnot. But it's interesting, Michael, that you've had all these interviews with tech companies. Some have ghosted you, which the ghosting thing is just so gotta stop, people, because honestly, your karma is gonna come back and bite you in the fanny, okay? It just is. It's gonna happen. But in the meantime, I think it's interesting that the construction companies that are build or creating these new fabs now for the tech industry are busy, because there is money that's being brought into or being given to the semiconductor companies to build new fabs because they want to bring manufacturing back to the United States. So what has to happen first is they have to build the manufacturing fabs to make that happen. TSMC did it here in Phoenix. Micron is doing a huge, like the largest fab up in Clay, New York. They're supposed to break ground this coming November of 2025. So your timing could be right on with your prediction that 27, 28 could be really when we start to see the staffing of these fabs again, because it's going to take a few years to get them built.
It's not
So
my
that's
prediction.
interesting.
It's actually the construction. They're saying once they're done building, which will take a couple years, then they can start building out the jobs for the techs.
Right.
So I've been
Right.
just hearing it firsthand. And I also noticed too with the AI boom, that could make a weird turn too. Like, what if it doesn't do what they want it to do? And then they build out all these new AI fabs, and then it's just not going the way society thought it was going to go. But I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a minute, because and we can kind of segue into where the jobs are. I know, Courtney, you had brought up the fact that, I mean, just the job search this year was just quite flat, I guess is the word I want to use, right? But what in what areas? Is it just, I mean, were you, when you have, I guess, sought new positions, was it in retail, or what industries were you looking?
Oh, I was actually looking to get out of retail. I was looking to get back into corporate, and I was going to accept anything that just meant corporate, that meant like what Jamie was saying earlier. It's a hybrid, it's remote, it's Monday through Friday, it's I have holidays off, it's I don't have to work late, it's I don't have to put in PTO 2 months in advance. That is the type of like luxury, I'm gonna say, that I'm looking for when it comes to what my next position's going to be. And so I was looking for like I would search for jobs that were like operations manager. I would look for like sales lead. I would look for anything that had team lead or manager in the position. I would look at it. I would tailor my resume. I will put it through different AIs with the job posting to see is my resume matching it? Am I a good fit? How can I get past the ATS? How can I get past the AI that they're using so that a person can see this? And it was really hard. I mean, I think just this year, I mean, I'm fortunate I had 10 interviews with different companies across the way, but ultimately, after everything that I talked about with Sephora, what company was gonna add up to what I was already getting at Sephora? Yes, I can get a hybrid job, I can get a Monday through Friday, but are they going to pour into me as much as Sephora is pouring into me? So I had to definitely weigh out those options too because I do wanna leave retail, but I wanna leave it with the right, like, opportunity. And so I ultimately did find a new job, so I'm very happy, very thankful for that. But I started December of 2024, and it took up until this month for me to finally accept a new position. So
Where?
and this is totally outside my realms. It's with a bank. I don't know anything about banking, but I know how to lead people and I know how to manage. So
So you're working both jobs?
not quite. So I start the new job in September. So I'm gonna finish out the rest of this month with Sephora.
Okay. Okay.
But
So
yeah,
okay, you're moving into finance, the finance
moving.
world.
Yeah, and I took one class in college on stats, and that was it. So I'm not the best with math and numbers in that way, but I am good at leading people. So I do know how to do that well.
Now, what's the role gonna be?
So it's with Bank of America as a transactions operations management team lead. It's a very long title. And the job description was very vague in what you would be doing, but it did list out all the things that I have done at previous jobs for corporate, like for Monday through Friday job. So I was like, "Oh, I could easily do this. I've done this stuff before." So I just tailored my resume to match it. And in the interview, he explained it a little bit further, and it's going to be working with investment. So investors, basically making sure that the transactions that are going through are legit. So I think it has a little bit of fraud in it. But again, I've never done fraud before. So it's I was looking outside of what I have necessarily, like, my hard skills in, but my soft skills transfer. So I was looking for something that was like that.
Very good. Now, has Sephora tried to keep you?
I haven't told them just yet. I was
Okay.
gonna tell them today, but my store manager was off, so I'll be telling her tomorrow.
Then we'll make sure and post this broadcast this after you give them your notice. Yeah. We don't want them to find out on a podcast that you've taken another job.
How funny would that be?
Okay, so one of the things we had talked about though too was ghosting, and I know that's still a big thing. And
Yeah.
I don't know why it's still going on, and I don't understand why people realize that their own reputations are being tainted and hurt by ghosting people because we know who they are. I mean, we've got their LinkedIn profiles. We've got their names. I mean, we're recruiters for heaven's sake, some of us. But it's like, why would you ghost a recruiter? I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. Or ghost somebody that could be a super good potential candidate for another position, even if he or she's not for the role that you're trying to fill right now. What's up with that, right? So let's talk about that for a moment because I think one of the problems we're running into, and I'm hearing on the other end, and I think Courtney, you had brought it up with me previously as well, is the fact that everybody's applying for jobs in the same Indeed, LinkedIn. I don't know. They're pushing all these jobs out to us because these companies are paying paying Indeed and LinkedIn to post jobs. So all of the jobs seems to be coming through those two portals. We need to diversify, I think, a little bit on what's happening there and also bring up the fact there are a lot of people out of work right now. And to your point, Courtney, switching industries is not a bad idea. And taking your and moving your skills from one industry to another is totally in the realm of what's normal now, correct? And I think and also, Jamie, you mentioned the restaurant industry and how people are leaving some of the restaurant positions for other roles, right? I don't know how they're going to pull people into the restaurant industry, but people are. They're moving and they're taking
Yeah.
their soft skills and moving on.
And I did it myself. I left a year ago, traveling 2-3 weeks a month, um, and there was just no break. Hiring thousands of people each year. There was never any lull. There's never any downtime. Even when, you think that the sales have dropped, let's say in Arizona because it's hot, your sales have picked up in Florida and California because it's, Colorado for the summer. So there's just never a break. You're just always on. So after, 10 plus years, I made the transition and
Which
everyone
industry are you in now?
I'm in manufacturing now.
Good for you. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah,
What do you
but we're
think?
seeing no, it's phenomenal. I mean, the one thing that I've noticed, and I've worked for some really large brands before this, and obviously with my round table, I have a lot of exposure to others as well. And the one thing I'm noticing being outside of restaurant industry is there's so many more resources. I mean, I worked for a company that had 15,000 employees, 4 brands in the past. We had about 10 people in HR to support 15,000 employees. Now I work for a company, their headcount is 8,000. We have 100 people in HR, with a quarter of those in TA. So the amount of resources that we have are just phenomenal. And you either have to grin and bear it and really love the hospitality or the retail industry, and you've got to bleed that, which I did for over 20 years total. Or sometimes it just, you need a break because it's just nonstop. You get new guests or return guests every day. The
Uh-huh.
job market is tough. I know
Uh-huh.
some recruiters and TA leaders and executives who've been looking for 6 months to a year. One in particular worked for Starbucks for like 7 years as a recruiter, super talented, took her almost a year to get a job. Um, so don't lose faith and maybe consider like
Yeah.
Courtney and I did in switching
Yeah.
industries.
So let's talk about that for a minute too. Michael, did you have something you wanted to share?
I was going to say some of the reason people are submitting to the same positions because they're using these, speaking of AI, these resume submission tools where they just let the tools submit the resume for them, submit it to all these different positions. And that's why everyone's getting bombarded with resumes. It's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah. So I think it's to defend some of the recruiters. Then, the ghosting happens. I think at the very beginning of the search process because things are being more automated now, and so the recruiters aren't even seeing the resumes, right?
Nope.
Is that what you're?
Kind of, yeah. With that, it's just they'll get like 300 applicants in like an hour, and they
Yeah.
just pick the top 10. Since
Yeah, you see on LinkedIn, like I've seen jobs that are posted and closed within 24 hours that already have 100 plus, 300 plus applications, and the recruiters just
no,
can't
Yeah.
keep up.
That's true too. That's
When we break it down to the retail aspect, I know my assistant store manager, they had opened up one of the positions for flex operations beauty advisor. And flex operations, you work a 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. shift. Very easy. You're there in the morning. You always get your 4 or 5 hours, like that's guaranteed. She opened it and it was only open, I think, for like 3 or 4 hours. And by the time she went back to it from being on the floor, it had, I think she said, 150 applicants. And I was like, what? It was only open for like 4 hours. And she was like, yeah. And it was on LinkedIn and it was on Indeed. And she had to shuffle through them herself manually because I don't think we use AI to look through them for that level. But same thing. It's like within a couple hours, there's over 100 people. And, these are people who are, high schoolers or just graduated high school. They're in college. They're just trying to have a part-time job. So I mean, I've been on the other end too, where I'm one of those people and I see a job that has over 100 applicants. I don't even look at it. I'm like, yeah, next. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not even
no.
my time
Mm-mm.
editing my resume to not even be heard from them.
Mm-mm. No.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. I think that these companies, there was one company that had created it was like a little rejection letter that quasi. So basically, they had so many applicants for their positions. They created this outgoing message that went out to every applicant who submitted their resume. And the note said, "We have had this output. We've had an incredible response to this position, whatever it was. And we really appreciate you applying and your interest in our company and in the position. If we're interested in speaking with you, somebody will reach out. But if we don't reach out to you, we will have your resume on file for other opportunities, that type of thing." But it was kind of a good little segue to letting people know, hey, don't expect to hear from us. We do have your resume, but don't expect to hear from us unless we want to interview you. Now, the next part of the problem that we're running into, though, is the fact that, like you guys, some of you had interviews, right? But then you get ghosted during the interview process. That's what's not okay. When you have a candidate that you've interviewed, you owe it to them to follow up, even if you have to reject them. To do the ghost rejection is just not okay in this industry. And it is going to catch up with people who are doing it, period. So I think it's important to have a process, even if you are interviewing 20, 25 candidates. Again, a simple process. Let people know, hey, I will contact you back if we're going to go to the next step. If you don't hear from me, then this is it. I mean, you can kind of frame it a certain way, right? To let people know this could be the last time we speak, unless something else comes up. But just have some sort of a closure statement, have some sort of a closing conversation with people, even if it's during your first interview with them or the second interview, just so people aren't expecting another interview. If that's the case, if you have too many, you can just be honest. I've got 25 people who are interested in this role, right? And I'm going to move the notes to the next person. If they're interested, they'll contact you. You can do the same thing, right? But the ghosting has just got to stop. It really does. I think the other problem too, and you guys have mentioned this, is just the sheer number of applications that are going out to these different companies. One of the things I think that we really need to help people understand is there's a lot of different industries out there. I was looking on ChatGPT at some of the industries that aren't popular, just industries that are kind of out there, and they have a whole civil servant and critical infrastructure positions like fire, forest service, EMTs, paramedic, sanitation, all these types of positions. I don't know how many of these different civil servant positions are posted on LinkedIn and on Indeed. Maybe some of them are. And if that's the case, then I think the same consideration still needs to be given to applicants and to people who have started the interview process, just to follow them. But there's also cultural, performing arts, lifestyle, wellness, and personal industries that includes like the beauty industry, fitness and wellness, metaphysical. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff out there. Some of the other functional scene industries, the crime scene cleanup. There you go. Ooh. Pest control, wildlife control, disaster remediation, modular home construction, storage and auctions. There's just so many. And then somebody else had brought up earlier today when I was on another call about the travel and trade industries. Now, I don't know where these people are posting their positions. Are they all using LinkedIn? Are they all using? They shouldn't. There are other areas, there are other places where you can post, and people should have an opportunity to reach out to on other sites. And I have some of them here somewhere. Anyway, what are your thoughts on that? Let's start with Jamie.
Well, I was thinking about some of those jobs you mentioned are going to be 1099 or entrepreneurship. And again, I think call it like it is. We're in a recession, I believe. And so some people are going to be a little bit more scared to, take a leap of faith and start their own metaphysical or um, personal trainer or makeup person, professional makeup artist. So that was the first thing that came to
Mhm.
mind. And I think some of the other ones maybe just don't seem as sexy off the get-go. Like, I don't necessarily want to be a crime scene cleanup, but I know that they sell that franchise. So maybe that was the other thing that I was thinking is some of those didn't catch my eye, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be a great opportunity for
Right,
somebody
right.
else.
But where are they being posted? That's the other piece of it. Where are
I
these types of positions? For example, like
15 years ago, I would have said Craigslist for
Mhm.
some of those, but I don't even know if
It
Craigslist
is.
is still around. But that's where a lot of those we used to hire for, labor jobs and quick jobs and like that event. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and it's interesting too because I've seen on the back of like police cars and on the back of fire trucks, they'll have like we are hiring employment opportunity bumper stickers, and then they'll give you the website to go to. And I think, oh, that's an interesting way. It's kind of like a Craigslisty kind of way of advertising, but who knows? Maybe they're doing really well with it. I don't know, but there are a lot of civil servant jobs out there that aren't like kind of entrepreneur-y. I mean, they really are looking for people. I mean, look at the Border Patrol agents, air traffic controllers. Oh my gosh, now there's a job that they're publicly saying that there's a short of air traffic controllers. Now, here's the thing though about that. There are limits, I found out, about the ages of air traffic controllers, how long they can do it. So it's kind of a tight window. I guess you'd have to look up the information, but I don't know where they post. There are the usajobs.com, I think is one of them. There's a few other sites that you can go to for some of these like streamlined positions and general industry positions like the tech roles and whatnot that we're normally used to seeing, or even in the hospitality industry or healthcare. Nursing, there's certain places you can go for nursing jobs or medical jobs, things like that. But again, are those people also running into some issues with the recession and with being ghosted because there's so many positions open right now, even in healthcare, I hear. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, I think, across so many different industries. But it is good to know that we don't have to have tunnel vision on what we do. And I think both of you, Jamie, you going from the restaurant industry into manufacturing, and for you, Courtney, going into finance industry now. Oh my gosh. And just think about it. You can even get a job in cybersecurity at some point. If you're looking at fraud, what would you call it? Fraud prevention for the finance industry. There could be all sorts of opportunities that open up there. And then Michael going into the construction industry from tech. Even though they're building for the tech industry, I mean, you're on that front end. The difference over the last year and how you guys have wound up and just some of your experiences. Tell me a little bit more too. Tell me some of the other maybe positive things, positive experiences that you've had. Michael, I mean, since you just started with construction, give us maybe one or two positive experiences.
Well, I got hired, so that's positive. Well,
Yeah.
I noticed two more people reaching out about positions rather than me applying. Like I'm starting to get more messaging from recruiters.
Oh,
Um, like just the past couple of days, I've probably gotten a lot of agency recruiters reaching out. But the problem with the agency recruiters, they're reaching out to like 1,000 people at a time, and then you send them their resume, you never hear from them again. So I don't really mess with those anymore. But that's a good sign though when you see agency recruiters reaching out. I mean, something's picking up, I guess, but not the tech. It's for other industries.
yeah. Yeah.
Like it was like one was like CVS or something like that. They were looking for a recruiter, and then the
That's
other
more retail, right? Or no, I guess pharma
Well,
retail.
the other one was like some sort of healthcare position. I can't remember what it was. And then like Medtronic was looking for a recruiter a couple weeks ago. So some stuff's picking up.
That is good. That's good to hear. Oh, yeah. I guess you guys are kind of the boots on the ground too to know that since you've been putting your applications out, see what kind of response you're getting now compared to even a month or two ago, right? When you started your job search.
Yeah. I stopped spinning my resume. I got interviewed fatigue. And it's just like, I'll post my resume and then see what happens. But I posted my resume and I got called, so something worked. But I think, to everyone's point, we just gotta like come up with new ways instead of applying, just reaching out to whoever you know, or finding the alternatives to the industry you're used to. That could link to what you have been doing, but that's not directly what you've been doing, which is also a good way to do it. But I don't know. It's tricky.
Yeah, transfer of skills.
Yeah.
Like what Courtney was talking about.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. Well, and even Jamie, all three of you have basically transferred your skills to other industries.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Sorry, it's been a day. I also noticed too with hiring, even with the company I'm at now, they've learned to cut their interviews in half because they know there's a lot of coming. Like they have 200 and some positions open right now, which is crazy, but it's all over the country. And but they're hiring like a lot of temp roles, and what they're doing is they're placing a lot of folks in these like rural areas in the Midwest, and once they're done with that project, they're going to put them somewhere else, stuff like that. So, but finding the growing industries is where you should submit. But like Courtney and Jamie, I think your industries are good, especially banking. That's never going to go away.
Well, yeah, but we say that about everything. yeah. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, Coca-Cola, they own everything.
Yeah.
So the good industries to be in, but I guess that's the key. But the goal is too, not to give up. I know I said I stopped submitting my resume, but I didn't stop reaching out to people that I knew.
Yeah.
And then I also started doing like another job that was not what I've been used to. Like, I was doing the mental health care associate position. It has nothing to do with recruiting. And then even last year, I worked for a grocery store. That's a security guard. Sometimes you just have to do stuff you don't want to do, but you just got to keep telling yourself it's temporary until you find something else. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
That's how Sephora was supposed to be for me. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be just temporary.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be, oh shoot, I need a job. Who's hiring? What can I do?
I also did crime scene cleanup though.
Yeah, the crime scene cleanup. Oh,
I did in Chicago like 15 years ago. And I found that job through referral. So maybe that's how they're finding their folks.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Good money.
not good enough. I don't even know what it pays. I'm sorry. That's just no. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And those are very stressful jobs. I think on you physically. I mean, just yeah. Okay, so Courtney, tell us a couple of positives for you.
Yeah, I would say besides getting a new job, another like one of the main positives was I looked at applying and interviewing as practice. So, I would look at the job posting and I would relate that to my resume, and I felt like that was a great way for me to test myself on like, okay, what skills do I have? How do my skills transfer over to this position? How do I showcase that? And then once I was in an interview with them, I actually have a running spreadsheet or document of all the questions that anyone has ever asked me in an interview over the past year. I just take a mental note and I write it down, and then I would write my answers down afterwards, and I kept it as like interview prep. And I felt like, if I want a new job, I need to take this seriously. It's not just, I'm getting interviews left and right, because that's not what happened. And so I wanted to make sure that I was putting in positive, actions in order to receive a positive action. And so I took every single interview, every single question as an opportunity for growth, as an opportunity to learn. My most recent one with Bank of America, it was not like any interview I've ever had. It felt like rapid fire questions, and I've never done something like that before. And, the main person I interviewed with, he goes, "All right, you have 30 minutes. Let's start right now." Boom, 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 boom. And it ended right at 30 minutes. And he goes, "I appreciate you being punctual. This was a great interview. You'll hear from us." And that was it. And I was just like, oh, I did not do well on that interview. I felt like I didn't answer any questions thorough. I had just did all this practice. But I think just having the background and having the opportunities from previous interviews, I didn't have to, like, I didn't second guess, in the interview, which most of the time I do. I'm like, oh, that was not a good response, Courtney. I don't know. I don't know if you guys as recruiters can notice when a candidate is like second guessing their response, but I do that sometimes. And so in
That's
this
a
one,
human thing.
yeah, is it okay? Yeah, I thought it was just me.
No.
Uh, but I did feel like, I felt like that was a huge positive after, every rejection. I was like, at least I got practice and I can practice for the next one. And I have the questions that possibly they're going to answer. I would spend nights just typing paragraphs of, okay, if they ask me this question, I'm going to respond this way. And that helps me retain, that helps me remember just by typing it out or writing it down. So I would say that's a major positive in just applying for jobs and interviewing in
Okay, so
general.
girl, you could be an interview coach now. You realize that, right?
No.
Yeah, you could. You could like
Is that a thing?
well, you've got all the data. I mean, you've created the
That's
sheet. I mean, that's
true.
amazing.
I guess I could. Yeah, I have 2 pages worth of questions, but I also did research too. One of the companies was Amazon and it was their medical side of Amazon. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what kind of questions is Amazon going to ask? Like, this is this billion-dollar company. So I spent like weeks researching and writing down what my response would be. How would I tailor this answer to match it? And they offered me a job, but it was nothing compared to what Sephora was doing, so I declined it. But I took it very seriously, I guess. I don't know.
That's awesome. Awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's a
Um,
great answer. I love it.
I,
Yeah, and I do. I mean, you could sideline now as an interview coach. Hey, I mean, what better coaching than somebody who's just been through it, right? How about you, Jamie?
Yeah, a couple benefits in making the transition. I would say, working for a company of this size has a lot of resources and benefits and matching 401k. I think one of the biggest things also is the work life balance. To date, I've probably never had that. So this is brand new for me, and it's been phenomenal with the work life balance. So those are some of the biggest things. I think also um, there's a real there's a lot of sense of pride in taking care of the people. So I loved how Courtney mentioned the mental health resources, and the company I work for offers that now as well, free to any employee and family. And then there's now also like an AI chatbot called that you can use for guidance as well. That's 24/7. It's very interesting. And
What?
earn money for going on there up to $600 a year. So just a lot of innovation and some cool stuff that we've been able to offer to the employees and myself. So pretty unique. The interview process with this company as well as two others that I interviewed with was lengthy. It was with about 12 to 14 people with three different companies. And so it was just making sure that I'm hopefully as prepared as Courtney. And, I felt like being a TA leader, they're hypercritical of my responses and how I showed up. So just preparing myself for those interviews and kind of having my ducks in a row was really important for me.
Yeah, very good. I know. I think that people are paying more attention to that now, and are very. I know. I get people asking for professional services all the time on my LinkedIn page for coaching and whatnot. because they want, and a lot of them are trying to prepare for an interview, trying to get their resume reviewed before they send it off, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I've seen a lot of video on that.
Well, I think nowadays, people are working remote, people are working hybrid, people are having their dinner delivered by DoorDash and their groceries by Instacart, and there's just not the same amount of like face to face communication and, those verbal and nonverbal cues. People are hiding on social media. And so I just think it's um, less common for us to interact. I mean, people go in their house and shut the garage and then jump on their phone and they're on social media all night. So I think people should be practicing, and I think that's a great thing that they can do before the interview.
Yeah. No, you're right. Especially with all of the, yeah, all of the screen time that people have now. That's a really good point. Thank you. Well, wow, what changes we've had since last year. So we'll have to do this every year. We'll just have to make carve out. Well, because who knows? I mean, next year you could be the head of the fraud department at Bank of America. I mean,
Who
yeah,
knows?
yeah.
I did want to backpedal on your last question though, about like where are people posting jobs
Oh yeah.
and then like the niche jobs that there are. So just two things I wanted to add to that. I've seen, of course, LinkedIn and Indeed. I've even done like Google search as well. Um, I mean, I found my job with Carvana through Facebook. It was a Facebook ad. And I was like, "Oh, this seems legit. Let me, go through." I researched the company. It was a legit company, and I applied for it through Facebook that way. Um, Another one that I'm seeing a lot of ads for is on Instagram, and it's either small businesses promoting their business of like, "Hey, come work for us. We're local. We're in Gilbert," or it's these, niches. There's one that I keep seeing that it's voice animation. It's voice acting. And you don't have to be an actor, but you can do, you can earn up to $1,500 per voice segment you do, or apply to be a reader on like Audible, things like that. So I'm seeing a lot of those niche ones, but then I get skeptical because I think, is this spam? Is this fraud? Is this It's on Instagram, so how legit could this be? So, I think, I don't know, maybe if companies are just being cautious for that reason and they're only doing it on LinkedIn or Indeed because it's the most trusted, or even what's the other one, Monster, or,
Not Monster's not
Monsters?
around anymore.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, a
Oh, never mind.
Monster and a Career Builder, they're of the past.
Oh,
They
well,
ghosted us.
there we go. That's what you get. But yeah, so I do see them on Instagram, but I just get hesitant because I'm like, oh, I don't want my information stolen. I mean, I have a lot of info as is. And then as far as like the crime scene builder or cleanup. So funny enough, my boyfriend's sister, she just graduated from ASU with her criminal justice degree, and she's having the hardest time finding a job. And she's applying to everything, everywhere. She really wants to be a detective. She really wants to get into that scene. She is one of those people where nothing grosses her out. She could, you know, she's so brave. I'm the complete opposite. Me and him are both the complete opposite. We can't see anything like that, but she
Mm-mm.
thinks it's the most fascinating thing. And so she had actually applied for Maricopa County to be like what's it?
Crime
What's
scene cleanup?
what's the entry level? She applied to be entry level of just like, yeah, crime scene, or like not quite a detective, but like getting into that role. And it was a 6-month interview process, and she ended up not getting it. And so she instead applied to be a volunteer for a crime scene cleanup, and she did get that. But the hours were from like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it was all volunteer, no money, and she had to drive herself to, Phoenix or Glendale, and she lives all the way out in Mesa, and
Why
so
was it
it's a long drive.
volunteer?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure, but that was the only way she was able. I think that's the way that this specific academy rolls, is that you have like, they take volunteers first, and then if you do the 6-month volunteer program, you're more likely to get an actual job with them. and then get paid to clean the crime scenes.
Wow.
But yeah, so she was doing that and she did it for 6 months, and I think she's now trying to land an actual job with them. And so we're all waiting for her, but she loves that stuff. And so, these things might be open and available, but how hard is it to get in there? Even with someone with a degree and
Oh my
who
God. I
has
can't.
this desire.
Well, first of all, I can't imagine doing crime scene cleanup as a volunteer. I mean, I can't even stand to see a cockroach. I can't even, much less,
I
much
know.
less a crime
I
scene.
know.
But I mean,
Yeah.
to do it for free, yeah, as a volunteer, I don't get that. That's amazing. Well, and there's so many. There's so many. The security guards too. I guess that's a real another revolving door thing because people will take those positions too, not as volunteers, but because they're just looking for work. And there's just a lot of I didn't know that. I was doing a little bit of research on some of what they call fringe industries. And in the fringe industries are some of these roles that you're talking about that we're all talking about that just you don't see them advertised much, but there's really quite a few jobs out there. But again, too, like you mentioned, Courtney, it's like where do you apply for them? And I think that's Facebook. I've heard Facebook. Actually, Facebook isn't cheap as an employer to post on there. Yeah, I mean, I think that you can get packages where you buy so many postings and they'll give you a break or whatnot, but it's not cheap to post on Facebook. I don't know about Instagram or the others, but I know Craigslist is still a viable place to post jobs because we had a position in some little podunk town in Indiana, and the Craigslist position actually came through. It was only $25. I know. And then like we did another position, project manager up in City, Utah, and we used Craigslist for that. It was $15. So of course our client was super happy about that. Wait, oh yeah. Compared to like $200 or $250 for a job posting on some of the more popular boards. And so I want to thank everybody for joining me. Courtney Schuelke, Jamie Starner, and Michael O'Brien. Thank all three of you so much for joining me on this panel discussion, on our second annual panel discussion for the state of work for this year.
All right, all. It's good seeing you all, though. Bye.
Bye.